how can we keep our energy up and be positive and be optimistic and hopeful and faithful about our love life, our future love life, if maybe these ladies are facing a few of these rejections on weekly, maybe?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Um, you know, one of the things that I've seen is the emotional toll that this has taken on men and women. And for our discussion, the women that I've worked with who, from the ghosting or just the disappearing, folks disappearing and it's not having, the conversations, the necessary mature conversations to get some sense of closure. Um, and certainly what's left is some trust issues and discouragement and some hopelessness at times and some other things that are challenging. um, I think also, as you mentioned, there's some internal storytelling that goes on, right? When you don't have, like in the book that I wrote, when we don't have all the answers, we typically lean to more of a negative, sometimes fear-based, but a negative story about what could have happened. And, well, it's because of this about me, or they didn't like this about me, right? So there's this internal storytelling. And so, some of that is really our own doing. We always, as human beings, we create stories all the time, and we do this to feel a sense of safety and security. Our brain needs to do it. It's our brain's highest value is to feel safe and secure. And
Yeah.
so I would say beyond the dating world, I think that when you're in a situation, whether it's dating or not, where you are doing quite a bit of internal storytelling that you're not sure is true or not, to specifically work with a therapist that can help you with that. Certainly, my book could be helpful for that. I do a lot of work related to that with clients over the years on helping them put pause on those stories, begin to question those narratives, begin to shift your way of thinking, through reframing and through other techniques that are, very specific and very intentional to stay in a better headspace, because we don't, most of what we end up getting worried about or we tell ourselves most of the time doesn't come true or isn't true. Um, so that's one thing that I would say from a solution perspective is doing some of your individual work, not to give so much power to some of these rejections or what feels like rejection or that sort of thing, and beginning to kind of take back your power by doing your work to interpret these situations not as I'm being rejected, but more, how do I look at this through the lens that this isn't the right person or wasn't a fit for me,
Yeah.
or how do I shift my thinking where I'm more empowered in the way that I view this. So it's much about, like, most of life is about the way we see things, the perspective, the way we view it, and the meaning we make of it. And so that's incredibly important in dating as well as in life. So I would say that's an important component. Another solution that comes to mind is that I was told by a colleague of mine years ago. He's retired now. He was, 20, 30 years older than me. He said, if you really want to date and find somebody, he was sharing with me this related to a client he'd worked with, and he said, if individuals out there want to date and find people they want to be around that are the type of people they want to date, this is simple but true. What he said, you've got to put your body where those people hang out. You can't just expect this to come to you. You've got to go put your body where those people hang out. Now, what does that mean? Well, if spirituality and faith is important to you, then you go get involved in some type of group or community or church or some sort of synagogue, something, that mosque, something where there is other people who have a similar connection to you, right? Where there's, in that way. If you like helping people in different causes, be a part of some type of philanthropic, endeavor where you're meeting other people in that, or obviously, I've met a lot of people who meet people through their, whether it be their gym or their cycling team or their tennis club. I mean, right? These are the things that we typically know where people meet. But there is something to be said when you have some common interest, and you're around people that you want to, that have some not only similar interests, but perhaps are in a similar place in their life. So I think you've got to put your body there. You've got to be willing to be intentional. It's not just going to come to you. And I think the other complaint that I see is that many women will get online and do a little bit, and they get a little overwhelmed with the amount of people that reach out to them, or they're discouraged with the amount of people that work out or reach out to them. It becomes either overwhelming, like this is too much work, or I don't know if I can take the rejection of this. And the reality is, especially on online dating, you've got to be willing to do the work if you're going to do this. It requires a lot of sifting through, and profiles. It requires getting to know people. It's a lot of work.
Yes.
And so if you're going to go that route, I think you've got to be aware that it requires a lot of resiliency and a lot of work to do that. So